let's keep going with this little dude that we made. Again, we're entirely finished making him, sculpting, and then retopologizing him all within one stream, last stream, which was actually surprisingly quickly in the way we ended up doing that. Its topology is kind of shit in some places, but it should be good enough, I think. So fresh water is so nice. That leaves us with a couple of things to do, right? That leaves us with unwrapping him, and then we can texture him. And then once he's textured, we might have some time left off to like import him into the engine and see what he looks like with all the cell shading applied and that kind of stuff. Maybe not now, I don't know. If we have some time left over, we'll get started on like rigging him, which should be fairly easy as well. We'll need to give him a skeleton and that kind of stuff. I imagine that's going to be what we do in the next stream. So for now, UV unwrapping is the name of the game, I would say. So I'm going to copy all of this over, and I'm actually going to make a new collection here, and I'll call that Final. And I'm going to paste it back in there, and in here I'm just going to apply all of the stuff so that we actually are working with its like final definitive geometry. I did see some stuff potentially changing there, which scares me, but we'll see how we go with that. So this mask, right? I think this is going to be relatively easy to unwrap. Before we do anything else, I'm just going to make the material for it. So let's call it like spirit material or whatever. And I'm going to give that a quick texture, which we can do. It doesn't have the little screencast pop-up in other tabs. That's kind of fucked, isn't it? It has to be re-enabled when I switch tabs. So this plugin is kind of like bad. I got a plugin or an add-on for it, but yeah, it kind of seems to suck. Anyway, texture. I'll do image texture. I'm gonna do new. Just want to do this as a UV grid. Resolution really doesn't matter. I just want that to be plugged into there so that we can use that as our reference. So we can now set this to showing the texture. And I thought that was going to show the texture, but apparently maybe not. We'll see about that. It's a little weird. Maybe it's because it doesn't actually have any unwrapping yet. Let's start with that then. I'll just get started doing that. Hello everybody, joining in and enjoying my misery. So what I'm thinking is this mask probably doesn't like actually need many seams at all. If I just say, hey, we are going to unwrap this entirely like this, it still doesn't show. Like if I go over, just to show you, right? If I go over here, it should show. I guess I can just do it in material preview. Though, oh, there we go. Now that does show texture. So that shows me actually like almost no stretching at all without needing any seams. So that's fantastic. That's one object more or less done. We'll need to get all three objects within like one UV space in the end, because I want this to just be all baked into one texture. Now, if we do the same for this, you'll notice that it does stretch things a lot. So we're going to need to cut this thing up into a couple of different areas. So let's turn off the body for now. There's some weird creasing stuff happening there, I think. I'm just going to ignore that for now. So what I'm thinking is we probably can do something like adding in a seam. Also, again, I'm going to try to like keep the screencast thing on so you can see what I'm doing. Got a question to do that in the comments of the last stream, and I actually think that's a fantastic idea. So instead of doing just pick shortest path here, we can do the edge tag select, and we set that to being tag seam, and now it automatically makes seams for us. And I think there's also a way to automatically like recalculate the unwrap every time we do that. I forgot what that is though, so I'm going to do that. Let's go like all the way up to there, and then make yeah, so the loops don't really work with the topology that I made, so we're mostly going to do that all. Oh, that's, oh, hold on, before we do that, we definitely want to merge by distance, because we need to weld together this mirroring. Apparently that hadn't happened yet. Which might actually improve. Yes. So let's mark that as a seam. And then we just keep that going around, I guess. Then let's see what happens if we unwrap this, because this might actually be like kind of getting good enough for the bottom part. I think it is. There is a little bit of stretching going on towards the edges here. But if we just add in a couple of seams, it might be better. That didn't make any difference at all, did it? Yeah, no, that actually makes sense, doesn't it? Question is, do we really care? I think this is maybe good enough. The stretching is pretty bad there, though. The alternative is adding in some stretching here, but we can add in actually, or some seams rather. We can add in some seams in the like bottom half here fairly easily, because this is all going to be hidden by a different mesh anyway. So we can definitely get away with doing all of this. And do it very sloppy as well. And that does get rid of a lot of the stretching. Okay, so now this. Okay, here we do have still some loops somewhere, hopefully. That makes some kind of sense. Question is that, yeah, that's probably fine. Can I mark seam? It doesn't do it for both sides. So we think this is the same loop. And then the easiest way to unwrap this type of stuff is to just then pick the very like top loop, which doesn't seem to be working properly. So we're gonna kind of manually do that instead. This is why you want to have good topology, because it makes this process also easier, but my topology sucks. And then we can just take one line from here to there. Now I guess we might need to do it for this as well, but this is a little bit more easily selectable. We do it from there, I guess all the way down to here, maybe there. And that gets us the horns done a little bit better. Of course, we do need to do the same on this side now. I don't know if this matches up at all. It's probably close enough-ish, I hope. I kind of want to get into Substance Painter as soon as possible today, because that's a program that I'm even less familiar with. But I do like a lot more than working in Blender because it feels a bit more creative. I don't actually know if I'm less familiar with it because it is very, very much like Photoshop, which I am pretty familiar with. So, yeah. All right. I don't know why everything got marked as a seam there. That's definitely not what we want to have happen. Let's make the mask also invisible. So now how do we cut this up in a way that also makes sense, right? Because nothing here is really... like there's a lot of stretching around the face. I think what we do is we actually take like this loop over here and as a whole mark it as a seam. Because that should allow maybe... Nope. That should maybe allow the head to be... we still probably need a seam just running through the center of the head. I'm afraid. To get rid of any, like, unwanted stretching. That's pretty good. It's not ideal, maybe, with some other seams, but most of these textures that we're going to make, presumably, are going to be projected on anyway. So it's probably fine. But that's the face. So now we only really have the body left, and the body is just a cylinder. You might be saying, well, it's got this like weird like little like angle to it. It's just a cylinder. It literally is just a cylinder. Let me show you why it's just a cylinder. If we just take these, which again are going to be hidden by a different mesh. So we're like really, really lucky with all that. And we say mark that as a seam. And then we just pick one of the loops toward the very end here. And we mark this as a seam. Then I need to not have this on circle select. I don't know why I have this on circle select. That's fucking psychotic. Then we just need to connect up one straight line from A to B. And then this might be a little stretch out, but we'll see. And then if we unwrap that, angle-based, boom. That's really all there is to it. So now we select all three. And we unwrap this as a whole. So everything has roughly the same scale to it. I say that, but the mask definitely seems to have a much bigger scale to it. So let's scale the mask up a little bit. And also, there we go. And now just make them not overlap. So let's pack them in a way that makes some sort of sense. I think packing this to be over here is probably fine. Then this is... Where is that? That is a fantastic... That's the inside of that section. So that doesn't matter. Let's just like make that very small and put it to the side. I don't care. Ooh, it actually does peek through a little bit. Okay, hold on. In that case, it does need to like exist. Then what is the inside? Oh, that's the inside, but that's also partly seen. Okay, I thought that was going to be a little bit less troublesome. Now that seems like it's altogether maybe like... Oh, no, that's about the right side, actually. These are the horns. Now what is this? Oh, those are the end bits of the horns. Let's put those over here as well somewhere. I can give them a little bit more resolution, I suppose. Doesn't really matter. the main thing is the head. I'm thinking if I can make the head like exist over here. Maybe what I can do is I can take this, just move it out a little bit, and take some of these bits, like these horn bits, and move them into this like empty space. Over here. What is this? Oh, that's that bit. That's the main body. We definitely don't want that to be too small. Okay, let's also move this outside for the moment. Yeah, that section also is fine if we shrink it down a little. These are the horns. Yeah. Put one of them over here. One of them can be over here and like slightly rotated, maybe shrink down ever so slightly to fit in. And then this bit was there, which we can probably fit in here well enough. That gives us the opportunity to put this here, which making it a little smaller is probably okay. And then this here with a little bit of rotation probably makes everything fit. There we go. So that's a slightly better use of our resolution. A lot less wasted space, probably. Can probably even make this... Oh, hold on. No, we do have something overlapping here. What is that? That is... Oh, that's that bit. Okay, hold on. We can still fit that in somewhere. If we don't make this thing too large, this can just exist up in this corner over here. Fantastic. So that's the UV unwrap, really. Any notes? The boy's looking ghostly without textures. He's going to hopefully look somewhat ghostly with textures as well. But yeah, right now he's just looking like a thoroughly confused chessboard. But that was altogether not that big a deal, was it? So let's export this as a OBJ. And then give me a moment. How big are the textures you're planning for this guy? Right now, I'm kind of just slapping 4K on everything, and then I'll, like, since I just have the project files for everything anyway, or otherwise I can just, like, import them into, well, not Photoshop, I don't have Photoshop anymore, but, like, Affinity Photo, and, like, downsample them. Unreal has a built-in downscaler as well. I don't know if you can, like, make the maximum resolution downscale. But right now I'm just importing everything as 4K. This is probably going to be more of like a 1080 by 1080. 1024 by 1024. We're like a 1K type of deal because he's going to be relatively a bit smaller than the rest of the characters. So I imagine that him being 1K is probably good enough, maybe 2K. But right now I'm just exporting everything as 4K and then going along as we get into like actually worrying about optimization. I might go through and see, hey, which characters can I knock down a little bit to save a little bit of memory, all that kind of stuff. And all that testing will be primarily based on making it perform decently well on Steam Deck. So the idea being that Steam Deck at this point is like the only machine that I have that is maybe like representative of a average gaming PC. And I think if my game runs on Steam Deck while looking halfway decent, it'll probably run well enough on most PCs. So the idea is I like medium settings on Steam Deck on everything. If you have a really shitty PC, there's always like the opportunity to lower down the graphic settings even more. But everything needs to reasonably be able to like run on like medium, some things maybe on high, on a Steam Deck. So that's what I'm going to be like optimizing for in the end. But then also like keep in a bunch of like high-end shit, obviously. Because if you have like an insane PC, might as well be able to like use that, right? And make everything look very crisp and have like very high res textures and that kind of stuff. So yeah, hold on. I don't know if booting up Substance through Steam shows any like account information. I don't think it should, but I'm just gonna like make you look at a black screen for a moment while I open it up, because I only opened it up once so far. Yeah, I know. It complains about me every time I open up Substance, like, hey, the drivers for this GPU, we don't like really like that. So be warned. And like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Like, just swap my GPU every time I try to use Substance? Because obviously I'm not going to do that, because that's insane. Unreal Engine, document resolution, 4K, file, models, characters, enemies, Spirit OBJ, that's the one we just made. And we won't need to like bake anything for this guy. Oh, yeah, by the way, everything was safe, so no worries there. We won't need to bake anything for this guy because we don't like have a proper high poly mesh, and I don't really care for it either. Well, we probably still need to like make a curvature map and that kind of stuff, right? We just use the low poly for it. So I guess we just do go through here and still like bake select the textures. Holy shit, what was that? That was curvature? Curvature map kind of went crazy, didn't it? I guess it's because there's so few actual faces there. There we go. So if I now look at like the curvature map, because that thing kind of looked insane. Oh, that wasn't the curvature map. This is the curvature map. That makes a lot more sense. Then what was it that I saw? Like the bend normals? No. Definitely not the opacity. Position. Thickness. Ambient occlusion? No, that looks about like what you expect it to do. World space normals? Definitely not. There was one thing that looked like real weird there for a second. But it's probably not something that we're going to be using, so it should be fine. I use Quixel Mixer. Yeah, it's just not quite as good now. So I've tried looking at it. It's just not quite there. I'm sure if they like give it a little bit more work, it can get there. But it's one of those things where like I don't like Adobe. I don't like giving Adobe money, but I've moved away with so much of my software from Adobe to other stuff at this point. It's just Substance Painter just is really, really good. Anyway, so what are we gonna do for this? I haven't really like decided. These are 3 different like materials. Are gonna obviously Quixel was abandoned, right? Can't download new textures anymore. I don't even know. Like last time I checked was months ago. So, but if it's abandoned, it's definitely not getting better. So yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Kind of was holding out hope there that it would maybe one day be able to replace this properly, but clearly not. So let's add a couple of different folders here. One for the... well, I guess that's fine. That'll be the mask. we'll add in geometry mask for that. We'll make a what will we call this? I guess that'll be the head. And then we'll make one for the tail or the body, whatever you want to call that. Fantastic. It can't make texture. That's the biggest downside for me. Yeah, that kind of just like instantly disqualifies it as being usable, in my opinion. So this should be kind of like a. I don't care for these pre-made assets. Those don't look good with like these like more stylized things anyway, usually. So let's add in a new fill layer to start out with. And that fill layer is gonna be... I'm thinking like a darkish blue to start with. And then its metallicness should be at... Usually metallicness is something you just set to 0 or 1, right? More or less. I think I'm going to go a little in between here. I don't know how Unreal's going to deal with that, but I guess we'll see. I'm going to take a look at the... Yeah, that's not quite the image that I was looking for. Hold on. Do I have any other Chrome tabs? I guess I have the Blender image. Okay, those images are also gone, so never mind. Let me go to ChatGPT real quick, because it's just in my library there, I think. Yeah, so... Armor paints. I've never heard of that, but that might be a good thing to check out at some point. It's like a decent alternative. Yeah, so okay. Let's see. What I want to do is I want this as the base color. Let's add in another channel for this. That's the normal channel. I want the roughness channel. Should be fairly like fairly rough, I would say. Yeah. And then add in a new fill layer on top of that. This one we're going to make a slightly brighter color. And I'm going to set the roughness for this one also to be like super low. And we're going to use a... hold on. Black mask. I might need to check out some of these substance paints alternatives at some point. That being said, I literally just got the Steam version of this. The downside is also I would prefer software that works on Linux, which makes it even more annoying. Natively, Substance Painter doesn't support Linux, but like through Steam, it does. And like these other solutions probably like work fine through Wine as well. But that does like complicate things a little bit. Anyway, so what I wanted to do is add a generator. There we go. right? Want to do this based on curvature. Supposedly armor paint does. That makes it a lot more attractive to like look into, like instantly. That's a good bit of like edge stuff. I'll also just need to paint in some detailing at some point, but this can be a good base to work off of, I think. Because we still can very much just like paint in this, right? As well, I guess I always forget if that's a thing you can do. Let's see, what is it? I guess I can paint out existing stuff. No, the curvature just overrides anything like I paint in. That's a bit of a pain. Not gonna lie. I thought I'd be able to paint over that. I suppose maybe I can add a mask to this specifically as well. Well, what I can do is I can add a... add a fill to this and then paint onto this, right? So this can be multiplicative. No, that should be adding, actually. So 0, and then I can paint onto this fill. I thought, maybe. Does your game use nanite? For the most part, no. For the most part, it doesn't have a lot of meshes that are high poly enough for that to make sense. Some of the like characters I might look into doing that with. Okay, so this doesn't actually like work that way at all. Well, in that case, let's try... messing around with these settings in different ways. But yeah, and then I mean, it's kind of cool, obviously. It's really like neat what it allows you to do, but it also really works best when you do have like really high poly meshes to begin with. It doesn't really do as much with like medium range meshes, which are like in the like tens of thousands of polys range. And that's kind of the range that I'm in. At that range, just using traditional LODs makes more sense from what I gather. And since Unreal can very easily like automatically generate those for you as well, that's definitely what I'm going to go with. All right, we have this curvature map. I don't know if I want them to be on the edge like that, to be honest. I think I kind of like it, but I also maybe don't like it. I don't know if I like it. It's a thing to consider. For now, let's also, like, can we just add in multiple? I guess we can add in another generator and then just add on top of this. And then we have like a built-in scratches, right? Directional scratches. I think I want more random scratches. I've heard that nanite should be used when you have so many assets with high detail visible at the same time. Yeah, so that seems to be the case. Like, just adding nanite onto literally everything you import anyway without, like, thinking about what to add it to and what not to add it to seems to maybe, like, potentially negatively impact your performance more than it helps. Because, like, Unreal does need to do like some math to decide what polygons it should show and what polygons it should like dynamically generate. And if it's doing that for a mesh below a certain like threshold, it's like doing all that work while it would probably just be faster to just render the original mesh, or at least like the same speed. Without and also like needing to stream it from disk constantly, because that's also what it needs, right? Nanite, as far as I understand, doesn't even necessarily like hold the original assets in memory because they need to support such large assets. What Nanite does is it streams the assets from disk and then like dynamically like changes the geometry to pass to the GPU only what is needed. But because these meshes can be like millions of polygons, you don't want those original meshes then to like hang around in memory as well. But because it's going from disk, even with an SSD, like that is slower than accessing something in memory. And if you can just have your mesh in memory, and should be passed through to the GPU as a whole, either as like it's high poly, or again, LODs are a thing that you can do. That is in most cases, unless you have like these gigantic, super detailed like photogrammetry meshes, it's probably better to just like not bother slapping that out onto everything. It like nanite, like everything in, and well, anything really, but especially like game development, there's no singular make this good button. Like everything has its upsides, downsides, everything has its costs and its benefits. And nanite is just like everything else, not a make it good button. Nanite is a tool that you can use on certain things when you know what you want to get out of it. Which is insanely high poly meshes rendering in a reasonable time frame. Did I not click on anything from the scratches? Apparently I didn't. No, it just didn't take. Sure. Okay. Why do these not... Oh, now I can paint. I can paint out stuff anyway. Can I paint in stuff? I can paint in stuff. Oh, it's called paint, not... Okay, so we can use just normal paint as well. I don't really care for painting, to be honest with you. What I want to do is I want to have scratches. Generator selected is not a substance file. So what the fuck are you like... That doesn't do anything. As long as I have more than 40 FPS in my game, I'm good with the performance cut Nanite has. Yeah, but that's the thing. It might not be like actually giving you anything if you don't have super high poly meshes. So like, if you're not gaining anything out of it, why bother like turning it on, right? If you are using assets that can benefit from Nanite, obviously that's good. But don't just like throw it on as a make it better button, because that's not what anything is. Like, nothing is just a general, this is going to improve something button. And treating any button like that is a tricky thing to do, because at that point you're ignoring the downsides. And if you're getting the downsides without getting the upsides, you might actually be hurting yourself more without actually gaining anything. Might make sense for this to be just a separate layer anyway, now I think about it. Also, 40 FPS is maybe not the most ideal thing to aim for. Like, I highly advise aiming for 60 on most hardware. Like, a game dipping down to 40 every now and then, if you're like in a super heavy scene, that'll happen, right? That's probably fine. But as like a general goal, I probably would highly advise like looking at 60. I don't know why it's doing this, man. Oh. Sizing for these is kind of fucked. These are micro scratches, I guess. I actually kind of like that, not gonna lie. It's only doing it on one side, seemingly. But that might just be a lighting thing. Hold on, we can see that in here. Isn't there a way to change the angle of the sun in this as well? No, definitely it's only like doing it at one like section of this. Why is that? Oh no, it's doing it everywhere, but it's definitely doing it more so here. Why? Eh. Generate a view, generator selected is not a substance file. So why does it even show up in there? Ah, that's more of what I wanted. Thank you. Just a little bit extra detailing. A little bit, not that much. That doesn't seem to do any significant difference. That's good enough for now. I kind of like this. All right, so that's going to be the darkest color, I think. Okay, what we do need to do is I need to like paint in this as well. And I kind of want to do that with this. So we're going to add in a paint layer and then just kind of I don't have my tablet hooked up right now. I probably should hook it up. Being 100% honest with you. But this is going remarkably well so far, so maybe I don't need to. Ah, that stroke didn't go that well. I can clean up a little bit in a moment. Maybe, probably, hopefully. No, 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 no. Yeah, that being a little bit more shiny kind of works. I don't know if it's going to work that well with... hold on a moment. It's in enemies, spirits, spirits. I don't know if it's going to work that well in engine. We can always come back here and kind of like take that out if need be. Always like physical paint. It's always a mess with probably to do with my UVs, but first time watching the channel. First off, thank you for your skills with us. Second, what is the main project? Is it for a game? So yeah, it's kind of difficult to sum up. Why path? Can you stop? Can you stop doing it? What? Ah, there we go. No. Yes. Oh, there we go. Now, okay, that works. I'll get back to that in a moment. Hold on. God damn it. Then I want the flow to be somewhat less, I think. Spacing to be... I think that just connects it up a little bit more with a couple of extra dots. So it's kind of difficult to sum up, but the main project is at the moment, that's what I'm making this character for. It's going to be one of the enemies. Is going to be a hack and slash RPG is what I can best sum it up as. It's got a bunch of like inspirations that I could go like super in depth about, like how it takes a little bit out of Final Fantasy, modern Final Fantasy, a little bit out of Kingdom Hearts, which makes sense because modern Final Fantasy takes from Kingdom Hearts, a little bit from Dark Souls, very slightly because I have a lot of problems with a lot of Dark Souls things, but some of them I do like. There's a lot of like small elements going on there, but that's the general like overview of what we're doing. So now for this one, I want this one to be, I guess, a slightly darker, well, maybe not darker, but maybe like more purple, and also still quite dark kind of color. And then just to get a kind of overview of all these colors, I think giving the tail a color already as well. And that can be a slightly like a lighter blue. It's kind of starting to feel a bit like a Spyro enemy at this point, I feel. If we take away the mask, which is very like Hollow Knight coded, the general like vibe of this shape reminds me of like, yeah, classic Spyro. In a good way. So now we get back to this. The roughness obviously needs to be a little higher on this. Yeah, you can, like, anytime you see, like, my, like, PNG tuber, like, avatar character in a thumbnail, that's, like, a devlog type of video. And sometimes that's talking about, like, very abstract stuff, like the last one, which is about, my workflow is insane. Right? I jump back and forth between doing different stuff all the time, but it's kind of just how my brain works. But sometimes it's like actually showing progress stuff. The next one is going to be about me like making a final decision about the HP and MP system in the game, because that's just been kind of in there, placeholders like this is what games do, HP and MP, without me having like actually sat down to decide what I want to do with HP and MP. I finally did that. So the next video, it's going to be in a couple of weeks. I still need to write and edit it. Is going to be about that, right? Where I'm like, okay, so I sat down, I decided what do I want the HP to like function as, what do I want it to look like, and more importantly, what do I want to do with MP? Because I've had a lot of considerations about like mana in the game. I started out with a mana bar, and then at some point I was like, maybe I want everything to be cooldown based, and maybe I want a combination of both, and I ended up with a mana system that is taken straight from Kingdom Hearts 1, because I actually do think that it's bananas. Anybody familiar with the Kingdom Hearts series, it's bananas that they took away such a fantastic MP system after the first game and replaced it with such an inferior MP system, in my opinion. So I'm just kind of like taking Kingdom Hearts 1 as far as like the MP system goes, and just like putting it into my game, because I think that it is a really, really good MP system. So that's like one of those videos that's going to be much more about the actual game itself. Those end up having less views generally, but they are the ones that like are important to make. Anyway, so this, I kind of feel like, in my mind, this is kind of like a cloth like surface. So what I'm thinking is we add in a new thingy majig here. And what this is going to be is it's going to be a normal and not base color. It's just going to impact the normals. And do we just have like a grid or something? I guess we can try to use those directional scratches, maybe. Or maybe we can't. Maybe that is a thing that we only can do on the base color. Hold on. We probably want to do that with the height, don't we? That makes sense. Yeah, so then... How did we do that here? I guess it's part of a generator. So if we do directional scratches here, okay. Can that be projected? Or at least like heavily tiled? This actually kind of does something. Obviously, we don't want this to be in the core. We just want that to be in the like height. That can kind of start looking like fibers. I also don't actually need... I want this to not be too rough on the normals, because the cell shading is going to go insane with it. Like if we do this, it doesn't even look that good. Yeah, I don't think the directional scratches are really the way to go. Can we just like... Surely this is meant for like normals, right? And nothing else. Yeah, so if we just like increase or decrease, well, increase. $128. 256. You know, thinking about it, the horns definitely, we don't want that to be, yeah, that's a good point. Let me open up ChatGPT again. This seems more of a, yeah, let's try something different. Haven't really decided much on this, to be honest with you. Well, let's keep this actually. So what if we still have a generator on this, and the generator is just going to be a just purling noise? Ooh, Voronoi could be interesting, maybe. Yeah, this is still like very aggressive, even if we like take out the color. It's fairly aggressive, but that doesn't work that way. That makes sense. It's doing both normals and the heights, right? So if we only don't want this to impact any of that either, so only doing it for the heights. And then, well, we do want it to be all over. I just want it to be less strong. But then I guess we can just turn down the opacity on this, maybe? Oh, that's for the base color. So if we go into the height, take this, and we put down the opacity on it, it becomes a lot less strong, right? Makes it a bit more reasonable to deal with. Just so that there's some amount of like detailing going on there. Let's try to go back into the... I don't know. We do still have this. Like... We can use these cells, maybe? And then use those... How do we then use those to drive anything? Again, I'm not super familiar with Substance Painter, right? So... I mean, that's kind of insane. But I need this stuff to be, like, projected. And not just done through UVs. Projection, that's... Okay, so that's the thing. We can do that. Okay, so let's go back. and go back to doing the... Which one did we have a moment ago? Oh, maybe we can just do fur. Let's see what fur does. And if we then make this... Okay, so that doesn't impact that at all. So these generators are just UV based, and that's it? I guess. I guess that's kind of what we're getting at. Okay. Unless, what we can do maybe... What if we do it from... Take this fur, right? Because this is now being projected. Yeah, so that is now being projected through, like, this triplanar projection, right? So that's starting to look a little more like how we might want it to look. Now, this still is very much too strong. But we can go back in and then just make this entire layer less strong. And now we don't have any ugly seams. But we do have color stuff. Or, well, height stuff, I suppose. And that gives it a little... Just a little detail that it needs. I think it does need some stuff around the horns. Obviously, because something needs to happen there, I think. But what? I don't know. For now, let's take a look at the little, like, tail body type of deal that we have. Because I was thinking that maybe doing more of, like, a scale, like a scaly look with a Voronoi might be kind of nice for this. So what we could do is base color from a Voronoi, maybe. Just like this. UV projection. Let's do triplanar here as well. And then we... maybe increase contrast, and then the size is mostly what I'm worried about. But we can, I guess, like, tiling this. Reducing contrasts. And balance. And now this just needs to drive a different color. And that's kind of the thing that I'm like, okay, but how do I do that then? I suppose that... oh, there's something stuck in my hair. Is it dough? I made pizza today. I think it's dried up dough. Yeah, it is. Oh man, that's gross. Well, better dough in my hair than hair in my dough. So I would like to use this to, like, drive a gradient. Or a mask. So maybe we can just use this as a bit mask. Does that make sense? I also think that doing a, like, height for this makes sense as well. Like using this same Voronoi for the height. Can we just, like, copy that? Yeah, so this doesn't have any of the projection settings, so that's kind of like worthless. I guess we do need to just like put one of these in there and then just, instead of linear dodge, maybe multiply. And then we multiply this color by... Well, that's not it. So this should be linear dodge, and then this should be multiply. That should multiply what's under. Oh, that's the height. Go into base color. Set this to multiply, so it multiplies what's under it, right? So that kind of works, but I don't want the like more dark spots in there either. It's the annoying thing about Voronoi, I guess. Having those like spots where it is a little bit darker. I guess what we can do is we can take that and then add in a levels. We play around with all that a little bit. So it's a bit less like, hey, here's just total blackness. Now, I would like to use this same Voronoi texture to then drive the like height as well. Is that a thing I can do? Can I just like say, hey, the height on this, like look at the like color on this? Because that would be ideal if I could. Because I don't want to just copy it over, because if I don't want to change something, I need to change it in two places, which seems like an insane thing to do. So let me look it up. Substance painter, get height from base color. Surely that's not like a weird question, right? Big height and normals to base color. That's not what I want. I have a base color and I need to get the height from it. It's not like super intuitive to do, if it's possible. I guess you create material preset out of it, maybe? And then... No. I mean, I can just do this, and it seems to... Oh, no, that is the same, because... Oh, that makes sense, because all the tiling and all the weird other stuff is done through the layer itself, not through the individual. This is just the same. That makes sense. Okay, so this doesn't look good. First and foremost, I think what we want to do is... Well, we have a bunch of like distortion stuff that we can maybe play around with. Now, I did definitely also set some attributes here that are going to, or parameters that are going to be different between the two of them, I think. So that's not ideal. Yeah, and this is also like, you can see that these aren't actually the same. So no, never mind. I thought that was going to be easier than it might be. Height. Can we like anchor points? I thought I read something about anchor points being able to like transfer between different like layers or different like stuff. Maybe not. Toggle parameter visibility, color space. I don't fucking know, man. Nah, that doesn't... Okay. Let's just see, because maybe I'm making this more difficult than it needs to be on myself. Let's just see if I turn off the base color on this and just use the Voronoi for the height. Well, so far that's doing fuck all. That's because I need to... That makes sense. So this way I can make only the edges like very sharp. I mean, that's kind of it. Need to like definitely... like move these things around a little bit. But that's kind of what I'm looking for, to be honest with you. I think. Just wish I could zoom in on this. Yeah. But I would still like these crevices to be darker. Just like have a darker blue in them as well. And that doesn't seem like a unreasonable thing to like be asking for, if I'm being really honest with you. Um, so yeah, this Voronoi doesn't like line up with the other Vorna. I just need these to use the same fucking like. Substance Painter, 2 channels, use same noise. Doesn't seem like it should be difficult to do. I feel like ChatGPT is going to hallucinate its ass off, but I'm going to ask it. In Substance Painter, I want both my height and base color channels on a layer to use the same noise texture. But I can't seem to figure out how to make it do that. Manually drag the same height into the height slot. Can I just like, yeah, but you could, again, so yeah, it just fucking hallucinates. That seems to be false. Please find me a reference online on how to do this instead. Right click on the layer, add effect, anchor points. Okay, right click on the layer. I don't see add effect. Oh, add anchor point. That's okay. Sure. Then what? Okay, this captures the noise texture as reusable resource. Reference the anchor point in both channels. Add a fill effect from the effect shelf to layer. Add its effect input to... Okay, so... let's for now just get rid of this from, I guess, the height. And then what? It wants me to make a new fill layer? I'm just gonna make this as like a... Yeah, we're just gonna do this. It's gonna be normal. I guess I would want this to be like outside somewhere then as well. Or like at the very bottom where it doesn't like override anything. Then we add in a fill into this. And then this is taken from like an anchor point. I'm just going to watch the video that it provided me. Oh, okay. So we can now take that from anchor points. There we go. So the idea being that I can now also drive this height from that same anchor point, right? So that still doesn't help because it's still not transferring between those things, I don't think. Because I've take this off, yeah. So it's just taking the color from this and applying it to that, and it's just taking the height from this and applying it to that. But I wanted to just take one thing as a black to white like image, like data, and apply it to both. Armor Paint turns out to be paid software made from the base code of Blender. It's like $20. Rigging day today. I mean, if I can figure this shit out with like these different layers, like linking up properly, we might get around to it today. But I wouldn't hold my breath. That's probably going to be a next stream kind of thing. Yeah, I'll look into Armor Paint at some point, but I don't have super high hopes for anything replacing Substance Painter anytime soon, but fucking it might. So, okay, if we go in here and I say the like height for this is driven by like a grunge texture instead, right? And then we have this, yeah. So it takes the height from the height. Oh, reference channel. No. I'm an idiot. Reference channel. We can take it from the base color. And I can just turn this off entirely. And then the base color for this can be also taken from that. And now they're driven by the same fucking thing. And we have a separate levels thing for both of them. Okay, that's actually fantastic. So I can like really get in here and like do the levels for the one thing. Okay, I figured it out. Sweet. So maybe rigging day today, who knows? And then, okay, now can I use a black and white map to make a gradient within one layer? Oh, I guess what we can do then is we can add in another fill layer. Set that to multiply, and then set this to the color that we want it to be, right? But that just multiplies it from that color to black. What I wanted to do is I wanted to say, hey, add black, you're this color. Add white, you're this color. But I guess in a worst case scenario, what I can do is I can add in a like general levels and just pull this up. Oh, nope. And just pull this up a little bit so that's a little bit more subtle. And that's kind of getting somewhere. Slowly. Slowly but surely. It's kind of creating these like little weird holes though. Can't you do some masking magic in Unreal to make that? I mean, yeah, but I don't want to do that because I want to bake it into a texture. So, like, if I want to make this, doing this in like a full shader would be like super straightforward for the most part. But then we're doing it like entirely in a shader, and I have one shader that's set up to like deal with all the enemy like fading effects and all that kind of stuff. It just takes in texture maps. So aside from like the performance impact of doing all that in real time instead of just baking it, I also just need texture maps to like put into that shader. Can I like, is there like a blur effect or something maybe? That would be nice. I could like filter. Do we have a blur? Surely we have a blur. I want to blur only the heights. I was just thinking keep it black and white and make the multicolor universal, change it in a... Yeah, but that's the thing. That only applies to this character. And all my enemies share one like master material. So that doesn't like really work. Just blurring it does make a bit of a difference actually, surprisingly. Just, I guess, what we might need to do is make this a little stronger and then in the height map just set the opacity lower. Instead, that kind of does it. I feel like even lower, honestly. Like a fairly subtle effect here, but yeah, no, I kinda dig it. I kind of dig it with the added effect that does we need to like do a bit more work on it. Mainly that being, I think, we could do with it being maybe slightly different sizes. Kind of feel like it's slightly overly detailed at the moment, but that feels a bit better. That feels like an improvement. We just did this to like have something there. I was actually working on the head. I remember now. So yeah, the head. I don't really have a lot of inspiration for what to do with the head. If I'm being like 100% honest with you. A little bit of noise maybe to like the tail. I think the tail is already a little like too visually noisy to begin with. I don't think we need to be adding in like any more noise to the tail. If anything, it should probably maybe be even toned down a tiny bit more. For the head though. Oh, that's no. For the head though, I think adding a like an extra noise map on top might not be a bad idea. So for coming back to nanites, I mean, I'm not like a nanite expert, but ask away. Let's add in one more fill layer to this within the head, please. And then we're going to use this to just do a noise pattern. I was thinking Berlin, just like a Berlin noise, but maybe like a grunge noise actually is not that bad an idea. Does using nanite mean my PC can't be run on lower PCs at all? It does mean that your game essentially requires a solid state drive. Yeah. Because of the way it streams those assets from this, it just doesn't work well with like traditional hard drives. The game absolutely, like, effectively needs to run from a solid state. But this like grunge map is actually kind of nice. I think if we like use this to drive a like color ramp or something. Substance painter color ramp. Color gradient. Oh, it's just a gradient effect. That makes sense. Filter. Gradients. It's that, right? How did he get that? I don't see it, man. Gradients. That can't be selected because generic output, no generic input was found. I don't know what that means. But this like 3-year-old video already seems to be not up to date, so that's fantastic. There's not some GPU requirements like ray tracing. I mean, to a certain extent, obviously, your GPU is going to need to do some work. But not like necessarily directly nanite related, I don't think, no. So it should probably be fine as far as GPU. It just needs to run off an SSD. The gradient filter is already available in Substance. Yeah, but it doesn't let me fucking add it. The hell's wrong with you people? Input and output usage to mask. As usual, Reddit is not helpful at all. It's just a bunch of people there to make themselves feel smart instead of helping other people. Okay, let's take away for the time being this. And see if I can add my gradient thing. No. Gradients? Still no. Then this. Instead of replace, maybe mask. Or normal, or whatever I just set it to. I don't know, man. Just let me put like a fucking gradient based on a noise texture. Again, not something that should be in any way like 3D linear gradient. That's not even based on a noise texture. That's based on positioning. That's not what I want. Why the fuck is it so complicated to like interpolate between two colors based on a fucking input texture? Holy shit. Surely it can't be that. I also don't know why this filter thing isn't working properly, to be honest with you, because that seems like it's fucked. That seems like it shouldn't be working that way. I guess maybe what we need to do actually is we need to add in a fill and then filter on that. Now I think about it. Like if we add in the like gradient filter now. No, never mind. I thought I did a thing there, but nope. Create a new fill layer. Add a new fill layer. Yeah. Then base color only. We have that. Yes. Add noise as fill. Right click. Add black mask. Add fill. Add a gradient map filter. Right click on the fill. Mask. Okay, so what it wants is I want to add a mask, and then that mask is going to have the grunge texture. So let's say it's this one. Right, so why is this not getting added yet? Because I don't have color turned on? I am so lost, man. You have no idea. So this is the grayscale of our texture. So why... So now can I add a gradient filter to this? Still no. I'm losing my mind. Like, why the fuck is this so complicated? There's no reason to be anywhere near this obtuse. Add a fill to our mask. Okay, yes, and then... That's a fucking start. Do this with triplanar projection. Okay. Getting somewhere. Right-click the fill. Add filter. Nope. Is it this one? Maybe? Hold on. Gradient dynamic? Okay, we're getting somewhere. There's a gradient curve. Okay, yeah, sure. Now, if we add into this not a paint, but just a fill layer. And that fill layer will be our grunge texture. Then our gradient is going to be... Oh, that just samples the fucking color, does it? Why does none of this make any sort of sense? Like, what even is this supposed to do? Give me a online source, because what you just said seems to, again, be a lie. It's this video that I've already seen, but let's recheck it again. So we set the base color. So you add a filter and then you add a... You're going way too fucking fast, man. To be fair, I'm not actually listening to what he's saying. That might actually help if I did. So he adds a filter layer at the very top. Then he filters... He goes to a fucking filter that I don't have, though. Okay, what is the filter called? It's just gradients. It's just called gradients. Maybe its icon just got updated. Gradients. That, I think that we have it. My goodness. Holy shit. Okay. Does the character have a name? Not really. No, I haven't really like thought about that, to be honest. Let's think. Maybe. Okay. So now we can go back into this fill layer and start working on like the things like the contrast for this and then the like balance for it. Okay, and brush pattern, whatever that means. Sure. Rotation variation. Yeah, that's a bit better. Not much, but a bit. Because it has this like... I guess we just do that and that fixes that, okay. We do still have the seams, but that might be because this is still a UV projected. So let's try planar project this to fix that. I think the colors should be closer together. Should just be minor color variations. Yeah, that being a lot more subtle works out fairly well, I would say. And then for this, I actually think that with like all the noisiness that we added just there, it might make sense to add in a black mask for this. And then I thought maybe only like painting that stuff on there, but it seems like, yeah, this is color on roughness. There's not even the height. Where does it even get the height then? Does it get that from this? It does get that from that. Oh, okay. What? You know what? That's probably fine. Let's move on to the tail. And refine this a bit more, because this probably can do with a bit more refinement. I think having like a pattern of it, like adding a bit more noise in the end, is a good idea, I think. So what we want to do, I think, is add in one more thing here. And make sure it's in there. And I'm going to add in a fill layer for this. And then we'll make that use the directional blur. And I want it to be the other direction. Maybe actually this direction works more. Now that I think about it. Might not be a bad idea. So then what we do after that is we add in a gradient. Just as easy as that. See? It actually is easy when you know what the fuck you're supposed to do with it. So this is black. So black should probably be this, and then we have the like main color for everything. And then the brightest color should probably be, yeah. So I had this idea to do it this way. We definitely do still have the seam very obvious there. So the other idea was in here to angle this to like more align. Doesn't quite work. Doesn't quite work. What if we did a triplanar after all? Well, doesn't work either. Planar projection? Can we like rotate the planar projection? Do we have a biplanar projection? Spherical. I don't like spherical. Cylindrical might work. Triplanar might just be the best way that I easily have right now, aside from manually like painting that stuff in, which we're not going to do because I don't hate myself. I don't hate myself that much, at least. Yeah, that does add a little bit more like visual flair to him, I would say. Now, with that said, this entire layer only does the color. Doesn't do anything with height at all. But it certainly does make me think that maybe we need to just do these the opposite way. And then have the... Yeah, have the base color for this, because we're now working in base color. There we go. As a whole, just set to being multiplied. And then we can kind of like work on that a little. Right, that's kind of doing stuff. And we don't need this fill anymore then. Actually, I did kind of like having it in that color, but if I like having it in that color, I should have it in that color over here. Or somewhere. Where's the actual like noise texture that I have? So you're saying that this layer actually doesn't do anything anymore? Okay. Yeah, so I do like that coloration a bit. So let's lean a bit more into that. And then... bit more like this, maybe? That does something. And then this should be... I think just going back to the height here. Just more... like higher opacity. I kind of like the body, actually, not gonna lie. That actually, yeah, that came together fairly well. Surprisingly, like a pretty decent asset, all things considered in the end, I think. I'm biting my lip a lot because I did have an orthodontist appointment today. Where, man, I complain about this in the Discord, but dentists fucking love stabbing you in the gums and then complaining that your gums bleed. Like, look, I know that I should like floss better. I know, but it just kind of feels a little fucked that you're taking like a sharp metal tool, stabbing me in the mouth with it, and using that as evidence that my like teeth aren't as healthy as they could be. Like, I know that you're right. I know that you're correct in what you're saying. It's just, I don't personally feel stabbing me with a metal device is the best way to show that. A good way to show that is to actually like just make me floss a little, and if that bleeds, then like something is fucked, right? Because that's not supposed to make you bleed. If you have like healthy, good like teeth and gums, like flossing shouldn't make you like excessively bleed. Stabbing somebody in the mouth is supposed to make them bleed. So it just doesn't really get the point across. Anyway, so like my entire mouth is kind of in pain right now. So if I talk a little funny, more than usual, that is, that might be why. But yeah, I think, man, for now, do we want to do anything more with the head? I still kind of feel like we might like want to do something with the horns. Maybe we want the horns to be like metallic, with the same or a similar material to this. So what we could maybe do is add in like just like copy the mask material real quick, as a template. Can I please rename you? Horns. Make that part of the head. And then obviously, of course, that needs to then apply to the head as well. Yeah, so the curvature for this is kind of fucked. We might not be able to use that. We'll need to, oh, do we have a symmetry option? I think we have a symmetry option somewhere, right? But we'll need to change the material around a little bit. But I think having the horns potentially being metallic as well could look good. Could also look really bad. I think this is the symmetry option. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, for this, let's just I guess turn off the curvature thing. And also just clear the mask altogether. There we go. So we can see what we're doing a little bit better while we're painting this on. Such as the fact that I'm using a square brush. Seems maybe like not the best thing to do right now. Where can I set my brush? Where can I set my brush? Surely somewhere I can set my brush. Yeah, it's just a square. Fucking hello? Am I going insane? There should be brush settings here. Oh, alpha. There we go. So that should just be... this? There we go. That's a bit better. At least a bit smoother. So I can paint this in without it looking like super mega awful right away. I do think that we probably want a pretty like harsh line here at some point though. Okay, let's toggle the mask for this back on, and then I don't know, I feel like this could just do with being maybe in general less rough and then just a bit darker, deeper blue. It isn't really doing it, is it? And maybe like fully metallic instead? Still don't feel like that really makes enough of a difference, but potentially if we then add in like this color manually as like... I also think that this needs to... like be more on the horns, because it makes sense that the horns will be more damaged, right? That kind of makes the horns more obviously a different material. Well, from a character perspective, different material. Obviously, it's gonna be the same, like, shader. So yeah, then I think... what if we put in one more layer inside there? Mostly give that height, and let's actually also give it maybe color. And give that like a quite bright color here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up my window for assets, because I think we have a built-in metal weld. That's not really doing what it needs to be doing right now. But either way, black mask, add in a paint layer, and that's going to have our metal weld. Right? And then with that, we can like make a path. I wonder if these paths also are symmetrical. I don't actually know if they are. I'd have to assume that they are. But I guess we'll see. It seems like they are. Good. just the like welding not showing up at all. So maybe instead of doing this as a mask, what we do is we remove it as a mask. I think we need to do it as a mask though. Yeah, we do. Well, actually, that's also that's probably too noisy. That's probably too noisy. But the issue is that the height here is linear dodge, and I want this to replace normal. I want this to do fucking something. Why is it still using the fucking... I guess we... It does... Huh? That's not even in this, is it? Yeah, it's not even inside of this. So why... What is making this happen? Something in the horns. Is it the bottom one? Is this one? So what the fuck? What's going on? I don't know. I guess this thing as a whole is supposed to replace. If we then set this back to linear, why? But then it's not even like replacing the height of what's under it. Well, it should be. And when it does add in height, it's like all this micro detail which I didn't ask for. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I guess we just add in height here and we set that to 0. And then all of this should all set heights to replace. Just to normal. Why is it not replacing? Normal? No. So this is then supposed to be normal and this set to replace. No. Because that just fucking adds onto it for some reason. Why would you call a blend mode replace if it doesn't replace what's under it? Like how are we gonna start even describing how that makes any amount of sense? Is it because this is somehow... Oh, it might be because of this mask. Or no, because this mask is... Okay, so if I turn off the mask, it does replace. When I set it to normal. So the mask might be to do with it. Let's just remove mask. Add a black mask. Toggle mask. Um, paint. Oh, I was just painting with 50%. Is that it? Yeah, I think that might have been it. So if I now set this, because this is like super very dark, right? So if I set this to be a little bit brighter. Okay, we're getting there. I get what my mistake was now. So I can fix it by just painting over it now. Happy little mistakes, right? Happy little mistakes. This doesn't look like horns, actually, now that I'm looking at it. That's slightly unfortunate. Whoops. I'm not going to change it. But that's, yeah, again, yeah, that's slightly unfortunate. And I don't, with this now, I don't even need to add, like, those welding things that I wanted to do, because the transition from, like, skull to horn with this already is kind of, like, welded together due to the, like, height difference in the height maps. So that actually works out more smoothly than I thought it might. Yeah. You know? Just do a little bit more. That's kind of what I was thinking, yeah. There does need to be a little bit more going on here than we currently have, but at least now we have the like masking and the everything working. So we can do with this, and then what does this do? Like this doesn't actually like do anything at the moment, does it? I guess we're redesigning the horn material from the ground up. Now that we have it like kind of in place. It's a very blue character. Which actually we do have like a dungeon that's themed blue that this doesn't really fit with, but I guess it doesn't really like ruin anything necessarily, so it's probably fine. Yeah. I'm gonna say that it is. So now let's say that I wanted this to have its own fill layer for the color. And for that fill layer, I want to use the directional, let's say this one. And we want that to be, oh, there, oh no, hold on, no, never mind. Try planar projection. Oh, that doesn't work, does it? For some reason. Why does that not work? Oh, that needs to be done on the fill layer itself. Okay. Well, that's actually better, to be honest with you. So, I don't mind that. So we have that, and then, yeah, we add in a filter for a gradient, and we set the colors based on this. So we like a deeply dark blue. Another fairly deep dark blue, but not like super deep dark blue. These two are a little too close, maybe. It's a bit better. And then this can have some of that. Yeah. Okay, now with all that, let's go back in here and like increase the roughness a bit again. And maybe even like decrease the metallicness, or increase the metallicness rather. That's a bit more like it. And then I want to add in the scratches still on top of it. Which I think is a just separate layer on the mask, right? So we can just copy that layer, put it into this folder. And we have some scratches. Let's play around with the parameters a bit. We have a scratch tiling, I think is what I... Yeah, let's make the scratches here like smaller but more. I do kind of feel like we do need a transitionary like little layer here still. For the horns. So what we might do is I might make a layer right there. And that layer has a height. Based on a Berlin noise. That's going to obviously need to be much more tightly tiled. I'll probably actually put that there. And then create a black mask, and then we'll well, not use the welding thing anymore, actually, because that was a bad idea. We can circle around back and change that in a moment. So we will add in that path. Because, man, being able to do this kind of thing with paths is nice. Which, again, I don't know if these other softwares that we've been talking about today in chat have this type of capability, right? If they don't, like, that alone is reason enough not to switch. Because the fact that I can just, like, draw things on with a path, which is then, like, procedurally changeable as we go, is so valuable. It's, like, actually really important to me. Spacing, just set that to being somewhat lower. Then we can set the size back down as well. Can set jitter size to be somewhat higher. Everything else jiggered. This guy's probably going to be somewhat smaller than the main character, I imagine. That's what I think right now. This is going to be like a fairly tiny little, like, slithery, annoying kind of dude. And then we can make this like slightly more like, fit in with the colors, being a tiny bit more metallic maybe. that does help feel like they are like welded on a little bit more, right? I kind of like that. I'm actually fairly happy with this texture job, not gonna lie. We're not gonna be able to like rig him up today. Well, we can make the skeleton, but I feel like if we're gonna be like doing all that with rigging and like maybe animating him, it's probably like nice to have that all within one stream. One thing that I do still need to do actually, before I forget, is inside of the head, I want these like eyes to be glowing. Obviously, everything needs to glow. Or there's some, well, the detail might not come through properly if they're very small. Necessarily. You have a point there, but there's still the same principle I think there kind of applies to a lot of people tend to think, well, if something is going to be like blurry and out of focus in like a shot, like cinematically speaking, I don't need to make it very detailed, but there still is a like pretty big difference to a detailed asset that got blurred and a non-detailed asset that got blurred. And I kind of feel that the same thing holds true for if we just made this more or less a solid color, it still would look different from all the like effort that we're putting into it here. I think adding these details, even if you're not going to see every single like individual detail, will make the thing as a whole seem more like a complete like object, a complete character. But I'm not entirely sure about that. But I do think you make a good point. But I also do think that like a lot of like the small detail in here probably gonna get lost. But it's kind of like the idea behind dithering, right? Like dithering is the idea that if you have like solid color here and then another solid color here, you can actually make a gradient between these two colors without ever using anything other than these two colors by starting to like alternate the pixels between them. So this layer over here would still like mostly be red, but have a little bit of blue mixed in. All the way up to like this being mostly blue in the pattern and having a little bit of red mixed in. That way you can make a gradient between two colors, which only has like actually those two colors. Rather than having an actual gradient, which is mostly a technique stemming from like 8/16-bit era like graphic design. I kind of feel like the same thing kind of goes here. You don't really see all this detail, but the fact that there is more detail kind of does, even from more afar, make it feel like there is more going on than just like the solid color. Kind of feels like a detailed solid color, even if you don't see all the like tiny, like minuscule details. That's my theory anyway. We'll see in engine how that holds up, I suppose. Let's for now export these textures. Because like on screen it's probably going to be about this size most of the time, I would imagine. Something along these lines, right? And here, like this part might as well be a solid color, I think, but we can kind of test that. If we just go into like the head and just like turn this off, aside from the fact that it does just like kind of change the general tint, there still is like something happening there, but not that much, admittedly. For the mask, It works well enough. The horns, we can actually like still see a fairly good amount of detail in. Like if I turn this off, like that is something you see the difference still. You might not see it very well through YouTube compression, but you still see that. Well, obviously that you see the difference, but even these like little scratches, you see the difference. You do see still like a little bit of like those like hash lines going through the metal, even on this distance. Anyway, exporting text is what I was going to do. Output directory. That's a fantastic question. Do I have... There we go. I was going to say, do I have a path to that directory anywhere that I can easily just copy paste? Textures. Open that folder. Put them in there. Output templates. What we're going to use is the Unreal Pact is I think what I've been using. So let's export those based on texture sets. 8-bit is plenty enough. Export that shit. And there we have them. The texture sets for this guy. I do want to just import it as a static mesh into Unreal real quick, just to see what it looks like in Unreal. I have the OBJ. We'll like rig it up and stuff, and actually I'll do the animations with a separate asset next time. But for now, I do have the OBJ. I do have the PNGs, which could be JPEGs probably. Are they JPEGs? I think they're PNGs. They are PNGs. They probably could be JPEGs, to be fair, but they're like 20 megabytes. It's not that big a deal. That's the thing, right? Like, these are 4K textures and they're 20 megabytes. All told. 23.5 in total. With all three combined. So, I honestly don't think that with, like, modern GPUs, it's going to be that big of a deal if I have everything at 4K textures from a memory perspective. Obviously, from like a rendering perspective, it does take more power to like render those higher fidelity textures, but that's something that Unreal's like scalability system can like scale down. But I don't really know how it deals with loading those textures in. I assume that it just loads in the entire asset and then like dynamically scales it down for rendering purposes, is what I assume. I don't know that that's the case, to be very clear. But yeah, if these are just like 10 megabytes, less than 10 megabytes the texture, I don't think I have to worry from like a memory perspective about them at all. Matter of fact, the OBJ itself might be bigger. The OBJ itself definitely is not bigger. The OBJ itself is 500 kilobytes. Never mind. Characters, enemies. That's definitely not the folder I've been using, but whatever. Spirits. Just import that shit. Don't care about anything. And then the textures. Import those. Wait, does it just... Oh, it's like tiny. Oh, it's real tiny. It's also kind of flipped around. I didn't apply the transform for it, so yeah, it's quite tiny. But that's an issue for future me to figure out, I suppose. It's also black. Why is it black? Let's just pull these three in. It's probably just wasn't completed compiling or something. So yeah, that's then the normals. And this is, I always need to look at this. This is occlusion, roughness, and metallicness. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So yeah, it's not going to be that small in the game. It's also severely fucked. What? What's going on, man? Why does it not have its... Oh, it does. What the fuck? I am slightly confused. What is going on here? If I go back into Blender, into shading, and I drag this image in, that lines up properly. Like, that all works fine. Its normal should be fine. Its normal shouldn't have impact on its, like, UV stuff. But I might as well check. But yeah, its normals are all fine. Well, oh, it actually does have issues with the normals, doesn't it? You are right. You are correct. That's weird. Oh, I also definitely, like... Let's join them together as one mesh, and then... like, apply all transform. Seems like might be a good idea to do. I'm importing it as an FBX now as well. That shouldn't really make a difference. Oh, smoothing groups, right? Yeah, smoothing groups. It's kind of annoying. But easy to fix. It's just export again. Visible objects. Oh, that might have been an issue where... No, it shouldn't have been. Anyway. So yeah, for the geometry, I need this to set that to face. And then it shouldn't be an issue anymore. Import failed. Why does the import fucking fail again? Let's remove these. There we go. Normal. Let's not recompute normals. Its size makes a little bit more sense now. And we actually see... Wow, hold on. Did it just grab the proper image? Well, it fucking did. Holy shit. It didn't do the rest automatically, but it was able to grab this image from my Unreal content bin, which is kind of insane. I didn't know that it could do that. Anyway, normals, and then we have, again, occlusion, roughness, metallic. Let's apply that as well. And then we finally have it in engine. So yeah, I do think that maybe those like cross hatches across its face are maybe a bit much for the cell shader. I do really kind of like the way that the scaliness comes out for the cell shading. But yeah, it's probably... I don't know if it's going to be smaller than the player now that I look at it like this. It might be like this size? Ish. That's what I'm thinking. Which is more so like the size of the player, to be fair. But that's kind of like the size that I imagine it being. Which, compared to everything else in the game, is relatively small. Because if I just spawn in a couple of these guys... Also, hello, you exist. I forgot that you just kind of hang out there. Like, it's pretty small compared to, like, these other enemies. Especially, like, these bosses, right? But yeah, I've for anybody who hasn't seen the updated bosses yet, or this boss, rather, last weekend I did a shit ton of animation. And this guy now kind of has life in him. Or, well, rather, he flops around a little bit like a zombie. But yeah, he's kind of getting there. Kind of happy with the way that this boss like moves around now. But yeah, this guy is probably just gonna like slither around a little bit. Be a annoying little fuck to hit. What I'm thinking is it'll probably like try to flank you a little bit, like stay at a certain like radial distance from you. And then fairly quickly like dive in toward you, do a hit, and get the fuck back out again. Is probably what I would like this guy to like do. But for that we first need to rig and animate him, which we're gonna do next time. And now that we're here anyway, might as well just let this boss show off a little bit, because I've been working on him, and he's got some stuff going on. So we have a way to like deal damage to him and get him stunned. It's kind of difficult to hit him as of right now when he's stunned, but yeah, that's the basic idea. Still a lot of work to do on that guy, but so far this is probably the favorite out of the bosses that I've made yet. Which it's the third one, so it's not like I have made a lot. But I like him. So, I'm going to head out. We did all the texturing. Boss animation look good. Must have been a pain in the ass. Yeah, so all that animation work is... I think... Like, was one day where I worked on it for like 10 hours, and on one day where I worked on it for like 7 or 8 hours, I think. Maybe. To do those animations, and then I have one more animation that I worked on singularly for like 5 hours over like last Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's somewhere in here. Hold on. It's the dive animation. This one I made on Sunday. So we have like, I made a post about this, like a community post, right? So you might have seen this. Like, this is the one I made on Sunday. This one was kind of a pain in the ass because it's got so many fucking moving parts, and it's a little bit janky in places, admittedly. And it needs a little bit more touching up, but I spent about 5 hours on this one on its own. And all the other animations you saw there were, I think, about like 18 hours across 2 days. or something like that. So it was a lot of work to get them all in a place where I like them to be. That being said, we obviously have like this bottom right and bottom left and top right and top left. Those are 4 animations, but really there are only 2 animations that can be mirrored, which did help out a lot. But still, all these animations with like their primary and secondary motion and like different parts moving at like different rates. It was definitely a challenge which made me more comfortable with animating. Like I feel like I have actually like gained a decent amount of skill in making animations dealing with this guy. He's also got just a really nice rig to work with though. So that also did help. Which I also did spend a day, like last weekend, an entire day just fucking around making this guy's control rig, which also having good tools helps with making good stuff. Anyway, I'll be back on Tuesday doing the, well, rigging for our new dude. This one over here. So, yeah.